Well, the NHL offseason has officially begun now that the Stanley Cup has been awarded, and we're joined by General Manager Brad Treliving. A week away from the NHL draft, returning back in person in Montreal, and obviously some offseason business as well. Maybe we'll start there. Conversations you mentioned at the end of the year, just about priorities and making sure that you began those conversations with your UFAs and RFAs. What's the early part of the summer been like, having those conversations and beginning that process?
Well, really, Brendan, if you go back to our season ending, you go through that process, starting with really the wrap up. You do all your exit meetings, meeting with the players, meeting with the coaching staff, training staff, sort of doing all the close up business that you do at the conclusion of a season. And we had our, the management meetings, both our amateur and pro meetings. So, the focus being getting ready for the draft. Obviously, we've got, as everybody's aware, some heavy lifting to do with our players whose contracts are coming to an end, and we started that immediately upon the conclusion of the season. So nothing new to report on any of the files right now, but we continue to work at it as we get heading towards the draft and beyond.
How much do those conversations weigh what you may or may not do at the draft? We know you have 3 picks at the 2022 draft, starting with the 59th overall. I mean, does that weigh into how you approach things come next week?
Everything's intertwined, but really the draft is separate, right? You're looking at it right now. We've got the picks that we've had. Obviously, we made some deals during the season to help our team this year. That included this year's draft, some draft capital for this year. You'd always like to have more picks. If that opportunity is available to us, we'll certainly try to see if we can add picks to the to the current ones that we have. But right now, our group is focused on making the selections that we do have and have prepared accordingly.
What about the draft? And as you start to look deeper into it, obviously, you talk a lot about the first round guys, and they'll get a lot of the attention. But as you start to approach what you have currently and later in that second round, what about just sort of the depth of players and what may be available to you?
Well, it's like any other draft. There's going to be players there. The focus for us is making good on the picks that we do have. So the staff has done as they always do. They've put in the work, and their focus isn't just on the picks that we do have, but being prepared for any eventuality that could occur. So that's really been where all the works for them has been at, is being prepared, depending on whatever else happens. But right now, I would say we're focused in on making sure our list is in order, and hopefully coming out of there with the best possible selections that we can.
And maybe just a thought on that, staff, and the work that they put in. You mentioned just the number of guys they watch throughout the year, and how much hours are invested into watching guys and being ready for this type of stuff. What about just the staff and the work that they've done to be ready for this time of year and whatever might come, as you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's again a little bit of an interesting year. You had some leagues that were, for the most part, all the leagues were up and going. You had some pauses, as did the National Hockey League this year at certain times with COVID. But for the most part, we were back to a fairly regular schedule, and they've done a really good job. They're prepared. You always like to give them as many bullets in the chamber as you can going into the draft. But they're prepared. They've done the homework. It's certainly the on ice watching and evaluating the players, but all the background work and all the prep work that goes into preparing our list, and real comfortable coming out of our meetings. We'll meet again in Montreal. The first part of the week leading up to Thursday and Friday, but we're ready to go, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, and after that, obviously, we'll get a chance to see some of these prospects. Development camp returning for the first time in a couple of years, which is obviously good for the staff and for the management to get a look at some guys. But maybe just, you've seen some guys turn pro this year, have a good year in Stockton, and they kind of make up that feeder system in terms of prospects, Connor Zary and Jacob Pelletier. Maybe just a thought on what you saw from some of these young guys in their first year pro, and maybe the step in development that's going to eventually feed your NHL roster, you hope, one day.
Well, Stockton had a really good year. It was a good year in terms of, win-loss record. They had a playoff run. Those are great experiences for those, especially for those young players. I thought it was a real, a real good combination of young players, and then also led by some real solid veteran players. So, you mentioned a few, and you hate getting into naming names because you eventually leave people out. But obviously, Jacob and Dustin Wolf had tremendous rookie years. Dustin winning the goaltender of the year, on first team All-Star. Jacob being on the all rookie team. Connor, after a tough start injury-wise, I thought really down the stretch had a really good year. You look at Martin Pospisil, and there's a number of players that had really good years. Connor Mackey. So that's just to name a few, but it's encouraging. We love the experience that they had, not only with the success that they had in the regular season, but getting into a playoff run. And now, it's the summer, and you got to train and get ready, and we'll see a large portion of those guys at development camp. I don't know how many will participate, just based upon their season recently ending. So, but their preparation plans for next year have already started, and so really encouraged by the steps that a lot of those players took, and excited to see them at camp.
One last one before we let you go, and that's the draft returning in person in Montreal. And I would imagine for you guys to get back on that draft floor, those conversations in person, and just to have that feel, obviously a step in the right direction, but a nice feel back to have the draft in person.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the draft is always, one of the big, one of the big marks on your calendar, the hockey calendar, is the draft. And we've done what we've had to do the last couple of years, but I'm glad that we're back to normal, if you will. So it's a big event. It's exciting for those kids, their families, all the work that they've put in. So it's always special for them. And then just conducting the league's business. It's great to be in one location. I'm sure Montreal will be a tremendous host, but we're certainly looking forward to it.
Appreciate the time, and all the best as you move toward Montreal.
You bet. Thanks, Parks.